Hi, I'm Terry Madden with the wonderful world of watercolor. Boy, do we have something exciting for you today. The 7 secrets to doing great watercolor. Even if you've never painted before, even if you've never held one of these in your hand before, you're going to learn how to turn out a great painting. Okay, you really are. Before I give you the 7 secrets, I'm going to tell you 3 truths. The first one is this: you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. If you know what the real facts are, you're going to be free to do stuff. If you know the truth, it's going to set you free. The next thing is this: watercolor is easy. I know you may have been told, oh, it's so hard, it's so hard. It's not hard, it's easy. And the next secret, or the next truth, is this: that it's correctable. It's not forgiving. Anything can be fixed. So don't worry. If you make a mistake, big deal. It doesn't matter. So the truth will set you free, and the truth is you can do it. It's easy, and you can fix it. It's correctable. So now let's go to the first of the 7 secrets. All right, the first of the secrets. It's so simple. This one is so simple. 2 brushes are better than 1. That's the first secret. Always keep 1 brush with paint on it and 1 brush with just water on it. Keep 2 brushes in your hand. That's secret number 1. 1 with paint on it, 1 with water on it. Or 1 with paint on it, 1 with water on it. Really simple. You always want to have at least 1 clean brush in your hand. Always, okay? It's something we teach thousands and thousands of students over the years. And this is something that actually my wife Judy reminded me. She said, you know what? So many of them don't realize that that's what you're always doing. You always have 1 clean brush in your hand. All right. Next thing you want to do. The next secret is this, is how to bleed without hurting, okay? And here's all we mean by bleeding. I'm going to show you real quickly what we mean when we say bleed. I'm going to take a little bit of paint. Let me just grab some color here. I'm going to put that color down like that, okay? Now I'm going to take another brush. What did I just say? Always have a clean one. And I'm going to make this bleed. Now in order to bleed, what you want to remember is this: tilt. I have it tilted just a little bit, and touch. Tilt and touch. This is just water on this brush. Now watch. Tilt and touch. When the brush touches, the water pours. Now I'm going to do it again. Tilt and touch. Now look at that. You see, when you do most kinds of painting, or many kinds of painting, if you don't put the paint down, if you don't do it, it doesn't happen. But not so with watercolor. With watercolor, wherever you put paint, something's going to happen. Wherever you put paint, or wherever you put water, rather, something's going to happen. The paint's going to flow in there. So you're going to get all sorts of effects that you didn't mean to happen. Now let me show you what not to do, because I found when I teach my classes, this is just as important as what to do. Don't do this. Now I'm going to put some paint down. There's the paint. Okay, now I'm going to take and do the same thing. It's going to look at first like the same thing I did before. I'm going to take this, I'm going to tilt, I'm going to touch, and it's going to bleed. Tilt and touch, let it bleed. Okay, and then here's what a lot of people do. They come back up here, touch again, and do this. Okay, and boom, boom, boom. All of a sudden you didn't get the effect you were looking for at all. It all just turned the same. Secret number 1, 2 brushes, 1 with paint, 1 with water. By the way, that saves on paint. Number 2 is when you bleed, just tilt and touch. Okay, now I'm going to toss this to the side, and I want to talk to you for a minute about color. If you can tell time, you can not only understand color, but you can be good at it. You're not only understand it, but you can be good at it. Look down here. Now up here at the top, we're going to put the color yellow, okay? Over here, we're going to put the color blue. Over here, we're going to put the color red. Those are called primary colors, number 1 colors. Down here, we're going to put violet. That's what you get when you mix red and blue. You get violet or purple, okay? When you mix yellow and blue, you get the color green. Okay, and over here, when you mix red and yellow, you get the color orange. Those are called secondary colors. You mix a 1 plus a 1, you get a 2. That's easy. All right, now when you mix a 1 and a 2, you get a 3. Over here you get yellow, green. That's a third color. They call those tertiary colors or intermediate colors. What I got to remember right now is it's a third color. All right, you mix a 1 and a 2, you get 1 for blue, 2 for green. You get a 3 called blue-green. Okay, blue-green. Then you get blue-violet. I'll just write these down quickly. Red-violet, red-orange, and then yellow-orange when you mix those. Now, I designed a thing. If this is 12 spaces and it's round, what's that remind you of? It reminds me of a clock. So I came up with a thing called Terry's Color Clock, okay? Now, Terry's Color Clock, this is the actual one here, but this is a large one that we came up with. I just blew this up for you. All right, up at the top at 12 o'clock is yellow, 1 o'clock is yellow-green, 2 o'clock is green, 3 o'clock is blue-green, and so on around the clock. Couple of things to remember. This is if you can tell time, you can understand color with this thing. Okay, number one, the primary colors are at 12 o'clock, 4 o'clock, and 8 o'clock. They're 4 hours apart. Each one is 4 hours apart. The second thing is this. Any 4 hours of color, from 12 to 4, from 1 to 5, from 2 to 6, any 4 hours of color will give you what's called a harmonious color scheme. Now, a harmonious color scheme means you use those 4 hours of color, it's going to look pretty. It doesn't matter which 4 hours you pick. You could start here with yellow-orange, work your way over from 11 o'clock over to 3 o'clock with blue-green. It's going to look pretty. Any 4 hours will look pretty. That's all you have to remember right now. Okay, now, let me come back down here on the table. And what I've done is I've just laid out two real quick color schemes for you, just real quickly. I've done two color schemes. All right, now the first one is this one right here. All right, I started with some yellow-orange, which is right there on the color clock, and there's the yellow-orange. Then I used some yellow, then yellow-green, green, and some blue-green. And this is the color scheme that makes. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. If you're looking at a painting and trying to decide, well, how would I ever decide how to paint something like this? This is how you decide. You just take 4 hours worth. And then the other one that I did a color scheme that went from blue-violet, okay, which is blue-violet in here, violet, which is your purpley color, your red-violet, your red, and your red-orange, okay? Again, 4 hours of time. That particular one went from 5 o'clock up to 9 o'clock. All you have to do is remember 4 hours makes a great color scheme. Now let's take all of this, toss it to the side, and we're going to start a painting. Now this first painting, the way this is going to work, I'm going to do two kinds of paintings. I'm going to do one painting that's designed primarily for those of you that haven't painted before or just have basically done very little with your painting. All right, so that's going to be the first one. All right, I'm going to take this one. I'm going to start a painting right now, and I am going to use, now this is the Terry Madden Watercolor Starter Set. This is the starter set we made exclusively for public television. This was done just for public television. You can't get it anyplace else. Now, this starter set, everything I'm going to use in this painting right now is going to come out of the starter set. The painting we're going to do is going to be this one right here. We're going to paint this. This is called the Lavender House. Here, let me lay it down on the paper here for you for a second. This is the Lavender House. Now, the Lavender House is in Sequim, Washington. Sequim's a funny town. It's spelled S-E-Q-U-I-M, Sequim, but they pronounce it Sequim. They get a big kick when I go out there and I say, oh, I was in Sequim yesterday, and they, oh, it's not Sequim, it's Sequim. Old Indian name. It's the only place in the United States where where they grow lavender. It's the only place where they grow lavender in big quantities. It's very similar to, I guess, to Provence, France. That's a really big industry out there. All right, so I'm going to lay this aside for now, and we're going to start our painting. And everything I'm using right now is coming out of the Terry Madden watercolor starter set for PBS. All right, we're going to use one of these brushes. This is my palette. These are the paints. These are the paints that are included in that set. We're only going to use those paints. I'm going to take a little bit of blue paint. Now, one of the things they do, they call it watercolor because you use a lot of water. So the first thing we're going to do is come down here. Even the paper. The paper is included in the paper is included in the set. In fact, there's even a drawing in the set of this house, of the lavender house. I put a drawing in there. So you don't even have to draw it the first time. It's there for you. Now, I'm painting around the roof of the house like this, like so. And then I'm going to just use lots of water, okay, like this. Second brush with water on it. There's water, 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 water. And then I'm going to bring that blue. I'm going to skip the roof. I'm not going to paint the roof right now. I'm going to jump down here to the side of the building. And I'm painting the side of the building, just like that. And stop. I'm going to take just a little tiny bit of red, just a little bit of red, and add it to this blue, just a little bit, okay, just right like that. And I'm going to put some of that up in the sky there too. That was probably not even necessary. I would skip that part. Okay, now we're going to take a little bit of yellow, This is the yellow right here. Going to add some of that, a little bit of water. And we're going to come over and we're going to paint this. Now here it's just going to be a yellowish green. Then as we get over here where I'm mixing it with the blue, it's going to have some blue-green in it as well. So it was a yellow-green and then turn into a blue-green. Okay, now I'm going to put a little bit of blue into this green like that, like so, and make it more blue-green over here. So we have yellow-green, blue-green, just like that. And the house is in shadow. You notice I didn't paint this part of the house. Left that part blank, okay? Left that blank for right now. Now we're going to come down to the bottom here. This is going to be a lavender field down here. So what I want to do is I'm going to clean this out real quickly. Just wipe that out of there. Throw that to the side. And I'm going to take a little bit of the purple. This is the purple right here. And just take a little bit of that and do this part right here with the purple. Now you notice I didn't paint the entire piece of paper. A lot of people think you always have to cover the whole piece of paper. Not necessary. It's not necessary to do that. This is, gosh, you know what? Anybody can, what I just did in what, 2-3 minutes, okay? Now you don't have to go that fast. You can take 6, 7, or 8 minutes to do it. You don't want to take hours to do this, okay? Because part of the thing is that you do, see, watercolor is quick. There's probably no easier way to make a statement with paint and paintbrush than with watercolor. This is step one on this. It's that simple. We put in some lavender down, or mauve down here, which is our purpley color, our violet color. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to drop a little bit of that mauve color up in here also. Just a little bit, just like that. Leave it. Okay, now let's toss this one to the side. We'll come back to this. In the next segment, we'll come back and we'll work on this some more. And within a very, very short period of time, we're going to have a really, really nice painting. Wouldn't it be nice to be able to, you know, to go someplace, take a little pad with you, and be able to turn out a nice little painting, have a little set with you that doesn't, you know, fit in your pocketbook, for Pete's sake. It's so easy. All right, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start a painting that's a little more advanced, okay? This is a more advanced piece, okay? Now this one, remember the color clock, okay? On the color clock, colors that are 4 hours apart are called triads. So like your primary colors were 4 hours apart, that's a triad. Remember those third colors I talked about? Now I'm going to talk to you, those of you that have painted a little bit. Those are called tertiaries, and when you go 4 hours apart, you get tertiary triads. So what we're going to do, this whole painting, the painting I'm about to do right now, I'm going to do with 4 colors, starting with blue-green, We're going to only use 4 colors. We're going to use blue, green. We're going to use magenta. Okay, that's that color right there. And we're going to use yellow orange, okay, which is this color right here, okay? Now my yellow orange, by the way, I make by mixing orange and yellow together. I actually squeeze 2 of them into the same spot. I'm going to start up here at the top of the bird with magenta. Now I've painted a lot of parrots over the years. Let me just be a little bit careful here. I've painted a lot of parrots, but I've never done one with a tertiary triad. The tertiary triad is gorgeous. It works so well. It's such a beautiful, beautiful color combination. For you advanced painters, I think this is one of those things where when you get stuck and you can't think, oh man, I'm bored, I don't know what to paint, I haven't painted anything really different for a while, try painting with a tertiary triad. You're going to find it. I'm going to go into a little bit more on that after this show's over. I'll go into a little bit more on what a tertiary triad is exactly, just so you know. But it's, I don't know, man, this is just a great way to paint. 4 hours, again, is the key. 4 hours apart. You pick 3 tertiary colors that are 4 hours apart. There's 2 sets of them. All right, so there's our magenta color, our red-violet, okay? Now we're going to come with our blue-green color. Our blue-green color will be next. Okay, and we're going to do this and let it touch a little bit. Bring it down 3/4 of the way down on his chest like this, like so. Oh my goodness. Do you always paint this fast? This is a little bit faster than I might paint him in my studio, but not much. You know, when I paint him in the studio, I paint him, I would paint him just about this quickly. Just about. Maybe I'd tone it down 40%. You know, because I'm working in within the time constraints of television, I've got to go just a little bit slower, or a little bit faster. Now I'm going to put in the yellow orange. Okay, the yellow orange comes in like this. You notice that's going to make some greens up here. Get it clean again. Yellow orange over here on his wing. Okay, we're going to do this. Again, I'm only using the 3 colors. No tricks here. I'm using 3 colors. See how that gets a greenish color there? Now I want to get clean. This is yellow-orange again, but a clean version down here at the bottom, okay? Now I'm going to, while this is still a little wet, okay, and you've got to do this. Let me just pull some of this up just a little bit like that. All right, while this is still a little bit wet, I'm going to take our scraper, and I'm going to come in and I'm going to put some feathers in, okay? These feathers go in like this, okay, just like so, and put some small ones up here on his head, just like that. Feathers are, on the macaws, the feathers are small up here, then they get bigger as they come down into the chest. Now you don't have to put in every feather. Later on, you're going to see we're going to do some stuff with this that's a little bit different, but you don't have to do every one. You just do some of them. Just put in a few of the feathers. I'm going to put a touch of the red, like he's catching just a little bit of this shoulder over here, maybe right there, just like that, and that's enough for that side. Now I'm going to come down and do below the tail here. I got to remember which brush has which color on it. I think this one has yellow. Yeah, this one's my yellow one, and this is my yellow-orange. We're going to come down below the branch. He's sitting on a branch. I know some of you, if you watched my show, you've seen me paint parrots before. I do a lot of tropical things, but this is truly a totally different parrot. Okay, now we're going to come with the red brush again. Okay, this is the magenta, and let me get a little water. I'm going to start down at the bottom, and at first it's not going to touch the yellow. I'm not going to let it touch for a second. Come up like this. Okay, again with the magenta. There we go, just like this. Oh, still hasn't touched, still hasn't touched, still hasn't touched. Okay, like that. Okay, like this. Like that. Okay, now we're going to let them touch. Now we're going to come up here, clean the brush, and let them touch. Like that. Maybe pull a little of that down there, a little of that up there, like so. Going to take the scraper again and finish this out. Okay, this is the first step on this guy. Throughout the rest of the show, we're going to finish him. We're going to finish that basic painting. What we just went over, I'm telling you, this is great stuff, okay? It really is. When I started, I couldn't match my socks. That's the truth. I had no sense of color. And it took me years to learn a lot of this stuff. You're going to be able to get it all in 90 minutes. Stay tuned, you're going to learn how to get all this stuff. Wow, it's just us for the next few minutes, okay? Let me just explain a few things in a little more detail. Okay, the very first thing I want to touch on is the wet brushes, okay? Just to make sure everybody really understood that. It is so important to always have one clean brush in your hand. Having that clean brush in your hand allows you to do so much. Some of you guys that have been painting for years, you know you know that, but if you're like me, you might forget occasionally. I know as Judy and I talked about this, and as we observed, we've got like 1,500 students a year that come to our live workshops, and we realized that was one of the things they really weren't getting. So we decided that was something we really needed to push and stress with our students. So keep a clean brush in your hand. Okay, the second thing on bleeding, I think we did a pretty good example of that. I don't think there's a lot more to do on that, except I wanted to just show you one thing. Why do you want to bleed it out in the first place? Well, the first thing is, let's just use some of that. I'll use it. This is phthalo blue. Just put a little bit of phthalo blue down on paper like that. Now, with a clean brush, what I'm trying to do when I bleed it out, you notice I only touch the edge. That's the key to bleeding out, is just touching the edge. And what I'm trying to do is create a value change so that I've got, without ever having painted a dark value and a light value, I've created a value change right here. And as you can see, what this is doing right now is much more interesting than what I could do if I tried to paint that with a brush. The key, though, is using clean water and then just touching the edge. Okay, now let's go to the more complicated one, and that's the color clock, okay? The color clock, in my mind, I'm telling you, this is a revolution. This is really going to help people to understand color better. Let's go back over to this thing. Okay, up here at the top, you've got 12 o'clock. That's a simple one. It's a primary color. The other primary color is blue at 4 o'clock. 4 hours away, the other primary is red, again, from 4 o'clock over to 8 o'clock, so it's 4 hours away, and then back up to 12. This makes a triangle, or what's called a triad. Every time you set up colors that are 4 hours away, you make a triad. Look at, there's a secondary triad. The secondary one is green at 2 o'clock, violet down here at 6, and then orange over at 10. So it's 2 to 6 to 10. Why is the clock concept important? Well, before, when we were just using the color wheel, what we'd do is say, oh, the blue is sort of, here's the yellow, and then the blue's over here, it's kind of this far away. There was no way to numerically say it's 4 hours away. Now we can give it a number. We can say this. We also know that colors that are directly across from each other. Now, we didn't touch on this during the show, but this is important to understand. Colors that are directly across from each other, like blue and orange. They're directly across from each other. They're 6 hours apart. 4 o'clock to 10 o'clock. 12 o'clock to 6 o'clock. They're 6 hours apart. Those colors are called complements, okay? The ones that are directly across from each other. Those are called complements. And they're 6 hours from each other. Now let's go back one last time to the triads. We've done the primary triad or triangle. We've done the secondary triad or triangle. Now there are two, what they call tertiary or third triads. You use yellow-green, which is at 1 o'clock, which means you drop down to 5 o'clock, you get blue-violet, and then to 9 o'clock, and you get red-orange. Then back to 1, that's your 4 hours, 4 hours, 4 hours. Okay? Then the next triad is yellow-orange at 11 o'clock. You come over 4 hours, 1, 2, 3, 4 to blue-green at 3 o'clock, and then 4 more hours to 7 o'clock red-violet, and that makes another triangle. Those are your different triad triangles, and they make wonderful, wonderful color combinations. Again, let's come down here for just a second, and let me just show you. This is the blue-green. I'm using the blue-green right now like we did in the parrot. This is a little bit of the magenta or the red-violet. So we're using the blue-green right here. Then we're going over to the red-violet. Now we're going to come up to the yellow-orange. Let me just use a clean brush for the yellow-orange. This is the same thing we just did in the parrot. Same color combination. It's a beautiful color combination. Because the colors are all within 4 hours of each other, they don't make mud, they look good together, okay? They all work together. Now, let's just do one other tertiary triad. Here comes yellow-green. That's a little bit of yellow-green. I actually make my yellow-green. I just mix yellow and green, about 10 times yellow to 1 part of green. Okay, so there's my yellow-green. Now I'm going to come down, and I'm going to come to 4 hours away from 1 o'clock is 5 o'clock. That would be my blue-violet. My blue-violet is French ultramarine, okay? So I come in now with the French ultramarine, okay? And then my third one, I go from 5 o'clock up to 9 o'clock, which is my red-orange, okay? And here's my red-orange right here, and that becomes the third color in that triad. So that's another combination of colors that you could use. We could have actually painted the parrot in that combination and made a real pretty thing. Now, every 4 hours that touch, okay, which would be, let's say, from 12 o'clock to 4 o'clock, you got 12, yellow-green, green, blue-green, and blue makes a harmonious color scheme. A color scheme where you know you can paint your painting in that, it'll look good. Let's do another one. From 3 o'clock to 7 o'clock, okay, you'd have blue-green, blue, blue-violet, violet, red-violet. Those colors will look good together. So anytime you use 4 hours of color, which is actually 5 touching colors, it's going to look good together. It's a great way to design your paintings. Yeah, I said at the end of the last show, I literally couldn't match my socks. I didn't know anything about color. And over the years, just working with it, playing with it, you know, I've filled dozens of little notebooks like this, these watercolor notebooks, and that's what I suggest you do. Practice it. You know, try each of the different possible combinations. See how it works for you. I know that if you work at it just a little bit, you're going to get good at it. Those of you that haven't painted before, where you're just starting, man, I wish somebody had taught me this. I wish somebody had taught me this years ago. It would have made it so much easier. You have no idea how many times I messed up colors and got mud and all that stuff because I didn't know which colors worked together. This is just a great way to get started. I really encourage you. The compliments, by the way, just so you know this, I don't want to overdo here. We've got another, actually we have a whole video out on color theory and everything. But the compliments, when you mix them together, you get grayed down colors. When you put them next to each other, they tend to brighten each other up. So that means when you mix a color that's 6 hours apart, when you mix it together with its counterpart, like violet and yellow, you're going to get like a grayed down color. But when you put the violet and yellow next to each other, not grayed down, the colors are going to brighten up. Again, just to go back to you guys that are just starting, I remember when I first started trying to, saying, how do you ever get all this stuff? It's like, you know what? It comes, okay? The clock idea was designed, I came up with this idea to make it come to you quicker. I think if you're instead of some abstract color wheel, if you're working with something that you're familiar with, like a clock, where you know the positions and everything, you already know where the different hours are, it's going to come to you that much quicker. But don't put too much pressure on yourself. Just relax and enjoy it. Hey guys, this is supposed to be fun. Keep going. Hi, Terry Madden in the wonderful world of watercolor. What we're doing right now is going through the 7 secrets to do great watercolors. Now we've already gone through 3 of the secrets, but before we did the secrets, what was the first thing we did? We went over several truths. The first truth was this: you're going to know the truth, and the truth will set you free. You see, if you've been told that watercolor is really difficult and really hard, and you probably can't do it, that's going to bind you up. But the truth is, number 1, that it's easy, and you can do it. And number 2 is it's totally correctable. So whatever mistakes you make, they're not a big deal. You can fix them. Now, we already went over the first 3 secrets. Just by way of review. We're going to use 2 brushes, one that's clean, one that has paint on it. Always have 2 brushes available to you. The second secret is how to bleed things out. Just touch and tip was the secret. And then finally we went over the color clock and how to paint. If you can tell time, you can learn color. Okay? If you can tell time, you can learn color. Now we're going to do the fourth of the secrets. By the way, we're also doing 2 paintings, as you recall. I'm going to work a little bit more on those in a minute. We're doing that painting that beginners can do, then we're doing one that's advanced. The one that beginners can do, everything you need is included in this set that we did exclusively for PBS. Everything you need is in here. And now we're going to go to the 4th secret for doing great watercolor. Okay, the 4th secret is you don't know which way is up. What am I talking about? And that's drawing upside down. You know, in that last one, inside the kit that was made for public television, was the drawing. Okay, there's a drawing already in there for that one. But what if you have to draw it yourself? What if you're going to work from this photograph, or you're going to just draw from a line drawing or something like that? This is a little secret that I learned years ago, and it's one of the best things that you'll ever learn. Okay, for a lot of people will say to me, I can't draw. If you draw upside down, you're going to find out that you can draw. It's called getting onto the right side of your brain. Now, watch this for a minute. We're just going to take this thing. I've turned it upside down. I've got a pencil here. And now we'll just draw this thing. I've turned my reference piece upside down. Now I'm turning my drawing upside down. And I just begin to draw from this upside down position. Now, the reason that it's called drawing on the right side of the brain, which is actually a book Betty Edwards wrote that's wonderful, the reason it's called drawing on the right side of the brain is because this makes you focus not on, I'm drawing a roof. Maybe you don't know how to draw a roof, but it makes you focus on the shapes of the lines that you're drawing. All right, just like this. Now, I'm not going to do the whole thing, but I'll do enough just to give you an idea. I know I have to come out to there, come down like this. There's that line and that line. And let's stop right there for a second. Well, here, let me draw on this one side right there, and then maybe a little bit right there, and just give you the idea. Okay, now, what this has done, I'm going to turn it around so I'm looking at it the right way for a second now. What I just did is I drew the house. By drawing upside down, I wasn't focused on the parts. I was focused on the shapes, okay? You do this you turn something that's even relatively complicated, even if you're not a good drawer, and you take something that's relatively complicated, turn it upside down and draw it, and all of a sudden you're drawing these shapes. And you're not focusing on the logical side of your brain, you're over on the right side of your brain. It feels really great, and you get really, really, really creative. So that's the 4th secret, okay, is turn things upside down to draw them. Now, let's say you're at the zoo, and you want to draw that elephant that's there in front of you. All you got to do is get him to stand on his head. No. Okay, obviously, you're going to work from reference photographs and things like that. Ultimately, the goal is not to draw everything upside down, but to know what it feels like to be on the right side of your brain. And pretty soon you'll find that you can have that elephant standing in front of you Hope not too close. And you can draw around him, and you'll know how it feels, and you're going to find your drawing improves. Not 100%, 200%, but 500%, 600%, 700%. You will be amazed. I was not a good drawer, by the way, and this was very, very, very helpful to me. Okay, the fifth secret is, where's the sun? We're going to talk for just a minute about shadows and values, okay? All right, first is values. Now, what do I mean when I say values? What am I talking about? Am I talking about don't drink too much and don't sleep around? No, I'm not talking about those kind of values. I'm talking about the differences between darks and lights in your painting. What makes good paintings is having darks and lights. If you look down here, let's look at this thing right here first, okay? Now, I've got tape on here, and I'm going to just peel that off. I did this before I came here. I did these 3 colors, okay, like so, and I just took them from right out of the tube right there, so it's real, real dark. And this was just a gray color that I had, and I went from out of the tube, then to where it gets lighter, gets middle, sort of a middle shade, and as it comes down here, it gets lighter still to where it's real pale. All I did in watercolor, all you do to take it from dark down to light is you add water to it. So here it has almost no water. It's right out of the tube. Here it's got maybe 50-50. Here it's got more water than paint, okay? And that takes you from darks to middles to lights. Now here, I've done it with 2 other colors. Let's just look at them real quickly. The first one I used is some blue. I took this is phthalo blue. I took phthalo blue dark right out of the tube. Almost no water in that. Then I began to add water to it. It got a middle tone right there, all the way down to here, a little bit more water, and then finally down to where it's just a tint. Here I did the same thing with permanent rose, which is a red color. I just took it from the dark right out of the tube. Can't make that any darker than that unless you've added something else to it. But I mean, out of the tube, that's as dark as it gets, and then all the way down to a tint. Now, one of the things that I would suggest to you is at some point have done this with all your colors, okay? Actually have done a dark to light on every color that you use, okay? On every color that you use. Okay, the next thing I want to show you is some shadows, okay? Now right here is a cube, okay? This is a cube. The sunlight is coming from this direction. It's hitting the top of the cube, so the dark shadow will be on this side. This is catching a little more light, so it's not as bright as that, but it's lighter than this. So this is a sort of a tint right there. And then this is what's called the cast shadow right here. This is the shadow that the cube makes. So you just draw a cube, figure out which way is the sun coming, which direction is the sun, where's the sun? That's all you got to ask yourself. Where is the sun? Then you have your different values. You have your light, your dark, and your midtone right there. All right, now this is on a cube, and here it is, the same thing on a cylinder. Okay, on a cylinder, like this would be a pole or a tree or whatever. But on a cylinder shape, the sun's coming that same direction. Where's the sun? This is the light side. This is the dark side. This is catching the most sunlight, so it doesn't have any paint on it at all. And then this is the cast shadow. You know, I first learned these things on television years and years ago, back in 1952, somewhere in that area, 1951, from a guy by the name of John Nagy. He taught these things on television. And do you know that's what made... I didn't become an artist until I was 39 years old. But that's what made me originally want to paint. I learned these things, these couple little simple things. I learned those, and it made me want to paint. And years and years later, I was only 12 years old, I guess, at the time. Years and years later, that's what got me started or made me want to get going. Here I go. People always said to me, how do you know so much about the shadows and how did you learn all that stuff? Well, from watching television. Isn't that something? So watch public television. It's a national treasure. Support it, protect it. Here we go. We're coming back over to our basic painting. This is the one we started in the last step. Now we're going to do the next thing on it. Next thing I want to do is make this side more in shadow. So we're going to take some mauve. This is our mauve right here. Take a little bit of mauve, and I'm going to just go over this part again with the mauve paint. So I'm just going over what I had done before. This is dry now, by the way. I should tell you that. That's dry. And that just threw that side a little more into shadow, and like so. Now over here, remember what I told you about always having one brush in your hand that has water in it and one brush that has paint. Over here I'm going to put, again, a little shadow. Let me get some mauve. I'm going to put a little shadow underneath this overhang of this roof right here, okay? Then I'm going to touch that with a brush that just has some paint on it, or has some water on it. So there we go. Now what that did, that created what's called a soft edge. That's a soft edge right there. All right, now we're going to go back to the flat brush again. Actually right here, I'm going to show you with both brushes, and you can decide which way is easier for you. I'm going to get some green. This is sap, like a sap green here. And we're just going to take some of that green and we're going to go like this. Make a little line like that. Then we're going to touch the brush like this. Just touch this corner to the paper like so and like this. And then putting the whole brush down and dabbing with the brush. Now look, just like this. We're going to go like that, like that, and like that. And we just made some pine trees, or a pine tree. Now let me go back, get some more green here, a little bit of blue, a little more green. Using all our colors, there we go. Now just make some more of this. And here comes some more trees. And like so, and like this. Now in a second I'm going to sort of join this all together. This style of painting, by the way, where you leave a little bit of white paper, this is called vignette. Vignette. I'd spell it for you, but I probably spell it wrong. No, I think it's spelled V-I-G-N-E-T-T-E. But a vignette style, which means you don't go all the way to the edges of the paper. If you prefer to paint all the way to the edges of the paper, that's fine. I personally like this style. Do you see what I just did there? I took the brush that had clean water on it, and I just touched the bottoms there and let them bleed. Just let them bleed in. Now, over here I'm going to do another tree, only this one I'm going to paint with this with the round brush instead of the straight brush, because some people may be more comfortable doing it this way, and that's fine. You know, I prefer to learn how to use the way I was taught. The way I was taught was use the biggest brush you can get away with. So that's the way I'm doing it. Now I'm going to come over here. I'm going to put some red in this on the roof. A little bit of a red roof like this. And boom, 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 like so. And I'm using the small brush, just like that. That's step 2, guys. It's pretty simple. We did the trees, we did the roof, and we tossed this to the side. Now let's bring up our more complicated piece. This is the more complicated one, and this is our parrot. Okay, now on the parrot, I'm going to use some bigger brushes, and I'm going to put some shadows in. Okay, let me get this palette out of the way. I'm using different paints on this guy. Remember, we're painting this guy with 3 colors. So first color is this blue-green, and I'm going to come in and just underneath right there and making him stand out a little bit. Here's a brush with just clean water on it. So we do that, like so, and like that. Okay, there's that part. And maybe a little bit of dark over here, like so. We're going to take some of the red, and we're going to put some of the red violet around his face, okay, like this, and just darken it up a little bit with the red violet. And again, take the brush that's clean. Whoop, that's not the clean one. Take a brush that's clean and bleed some of this out. Blot that a little bit. There we go, just like that. And we'll bleed some of this out, just like so. Now I've got one up here that's already finished that I'm glancing at every now and then, okay? And so that's how you do your shadows. Now we're going to start to put in some leaves. Okay, I'm going to use my pencil for a second, and I'm going to put in a few leaves. Let me show you how to do leaves. This is a little trick on how to do leaves. These are coming out, here's the center of this plant, okay, right here. I'm going to come like this, like that, with one leaf, 2 leaves, 3 leaves, 4 leaves, like so. 5, 6, 7, then some of them are going that direction. Now, having drawn the middle of the leaves, all I do then is come in from the point like this and do those. All right, here I come in like this and do those. Really, really simple. Leaves, ferns, plants, everything is really easy if you do the middles first. Look how easy that is. That is really, really simple. Okay, now I'm going to create some background. I have a third color I'm working with. Remember, I'm working with 3 colors. This is a 3-color painting. The 3 colors are yellow, orange, which is right there. Okay, then we're using the blue, green, and the red. Now, up till now, we've not mixed them together much, but watch what happens when I start to mix these together. Over here, I get sort of an orangey reddish color. Over here, I mix that, I get this greenish color. And if I mix them all together, I get sort of a khaki color almost, all right? Now, I'm going to take that, like so, and I'm just going to start this background. Okay, we're not going to get real far on it, but I'll get it started for you. When I bring up the next step, you're going to say, well, he's cheating. It doesn't look anything like this one. But I'll get it started for you. Now, I'm painting around those leaves. If I get a little bit of paint on the leaves, not a big deal. Not a big deal at all. Again, here, mix this together a little bit. Come like this. I'll tell you, I remember when Judy and I first started painting, and we wanted to know how do you get khaki colors and how do you get, I'm going to get some moss green in just a second. You're going to see moss green. And how do you get moss green? We had no clue how to get those colors. No clue at all. And we used to mix 7 or 8, there's moss green right there. Okay, what I did is use more of the blue and yellow and less of the red, and I get this moss green color. Okay, and I continue to paint around this like so. Now watch this. Now I'll bleed that out. Okay, just bleed it out like this. Ay, 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 ay. What a beautiful green. The colors on this thing are gorgeous. They are absolutely gorgeous, okay? Now, when I bring up the next one, you'll see I put in some additional leaves and all that stuff, and I've continued the background all over it. I've done this, and I've left white spaces. I've left some nice white spaces. So I'll come back to the background in the next step, okay? But right now, let me come up and work on this part up here, which is his beak, okay? Just come up there real quick and just start his beak. And I want to show you how we take some of the magenta, which is our red-violet color, some of the blue-green, mix that together, and we get a bluish-purpley color for his beak. And that's where that is. And we do that like so. Leave a highlight like that. Okay. Whew, we are moving quick, but we're getting it done. This is so much fun. We'll be right back. This is my favorite part, okay? It's just us again. You know, we talked about drawing upside down. It really is a key. And as I said before, it's not so much to learn how to draw upside down. That's not really the secret. That's not really the key. The key is you draw upside down to learn how to get on the right side of your brain. You can take really, really complicated subject matter and draw it if you draw it upside down. But once you start learning what it is to draw upside down, I'm going to just stand for a second with my hand on my hip, like this, okay? And, okay, so can you see this space in between me, okay? All right, so if I want to draw my arm right now, okay, what I learned to draw after I've practiced upside down, now I'm going to do it right side up. What I learned to draw is instead of trying to draw an arm, draw this space that exists in here in between my arm. Okay, draw that space right there. Then when I'm doing the other side of my arm, again, you don't think arm, you draw this space that exists out here. So you end up drawing this line but not as the end of this part right here, but as the end of that space, okay? It's called negative thinking, negative drawing, not like negative like, oh, I can't do it, that's too hard. No, that's called whining, okay? But this is a negative way to think. You're drawing negative space, okay? It's just phenomenal. If you look down here for just a second, and I started this maybe 20 seconds ago or 30 seconds ago. I'm just taking this really handsome guy here, and let me just give him a little more hair than he actually has, and I'm just kind of drawing that guy, and there's his nose and a little bit of this, and boy, he's got a lot of wrinkles. I don't know about this guy, but anyway, maybe he has some glasses on or something coming back here, and boy, he is good looking though, good looking guy. There's that, and so anyway, what we've done, and I turn it around, and it's not the best example in the world, but it's the beginning of moi, okay? And actually, I think I'm not quite that good looking. Okay, so anyway, the way you do the upside down drawing, put on some music. Serious now, okay? Put on some classical music or something that really gets you away from yourself, okay? Put on some music and sit. If you're going to do something like this, like I just did, give yourself probably 20 minutes. Set aside 20 minutes. First 2 or 3 minutes, your mind will drift. It'll be a little bit hard and all that jazz. But after 2 or 3 minutes, your brain almost clicks. Okay, there's almost click, and you're there. Okay, and then you won't even remember the other 17 minutes. You'll just be there drawing these shapes, and you'll turn the thing around, and it'll be gorgeous. Practice it, try it. I'm telling you, it's great. Okay, and the other thing that we wanted to touch on was the shadows just a little bit. And let me just show you that. I'm going to make a cube here real quick. Okay, here's a cube. Don't worry about whether the lines are straight. That's not the point. Okay, draw it like this, and this, and this, and this. Now see now there, I just drew a cube that doesn't have a top. See the difference? Here, let me do it again. In order for it to have a top, this line has to go this way. You see that? Okay. All right, there's a cube with the top. There's a cube with the top. That would be a cube looking up at it. This would be a cube looking down at it. Let's paint this one. All right, so I'm going to take that, and I'm going to make some gray. Now, let me tell you how to make gray. Take a little bit of burnt sienna. This is burnt sienna right here. Let's get some clean burnt sienna. There's a little bit of burnt sienna and a little bit of French ultramarine blue. French ultramarine blue, burnt sienna, beautiful gray right there. All right, here's my dark right there. The sun's coming from this direction. There's my sunshine right there. All right, there's my gray. There's as dark as it's going to get. Okay, like that. That's the dark side, the side away from the sun. Okay, this is called the form shadow, by the way, F-O-R-M, that's the form shadow. And here's the cast shadow. Just like this. Come under here just a little bit. Just like so. And there's the cast shadow of the thing, just like that. And then finally, I'm just going to take a little bit of this with mainly water, and just put a little bit of light into there, just so that's sort of very light tint. Okay, so this would be our side that's not getting any sunlight. This is a side that's getting a lot of sunlight, and this is a side that's getting a little bit. Okay, so we have our dark, our light, and so on and so forth, so on and so forth, so on and so forth. That was easy. You can do this, dudes. You can do this, whether you've been painting a long time or a short time. I don't want to confuse you, but I'm going to talk about one last thing, and that's reflections, okay? What if something is in the water? Here's a pole, and let's do it this way. I'm going to have the pole lean like this, okay? And it's in the water. There's the water right there, okay? And there's the pole. Sun's coming this way, okay? Now, I'm going to put the shadow side of the pole in. Since the sun's coming from here, this will be the shadow side of the pole. No problemo there, no problem. That makes sense. It's the same way as the other way. But if the sun's coming from here, which way does the reflection of the pole go? The sun has no bearing on the reflections, okay? Reflections are like mirrors. They fall underneath the object. If this was on ground, if this was on solid ground, obviously there'd be a shadow that would come this way. But the reflection of this pole goes like this. The reflection of the pole goes like that. Goes right underneath where the pole's located. So there's a difference between shadows and reflections. I see a lot of people, they get messed up. They go to do reflections and they do them just like shadows. So it goes this way. Not right. There's a difference between shadows and reflections. Values, again, I encourage you, just do this. Take your, here I'm going to use some, let's take Prussian blue. I'm going to take some Prussian blue. I'm going to put it down. That's as dark as I can get Prussian blue. There's almost no water on that. Now I'm going to dip my brush in the water, and I'm going to paint a little more Prussian blue. Then I'm going to dip my brush in the water again, and I'm going to paint a little more Prussian blue, and I've gone from a dark to a mid-tone to a tint, okay? Dark, middle, light, okay? That's all you really have to know how to do with your darks and your lights and so on. I keep coming back to this guy. He really is good looking. Have fun, guys. See you next time. Hi, welcome back. Terry Madden, The Wonderful World of Watercolor. We're coming to the end of the 7 secrets to doing great watercolor. I hope this has been helpful to you so far. I've had a ball teaching it, and I just can't wait for this next part. Okay, the next secret is what I call linear or non-linear painting. Now, very quickly here, I'm just going to take a brush, and I'm going to show you the way some people would paint a house, okay? This is how some people would do it. They would paint a house by going jupe, jupe, there's a roof, there's another part of a roof, there's the other part, this part, this part, this part, this part, then there's the bottom and so on, and there's the door, and they'd have to put a doorknob in and all that good jazz, and everything has to be so precise and that's called linear painting. 2 things. One is it's outline, and second is that you're only getting out of it what you put into it. You're only getting what you give it, okay? Now, here's nonlinear painting. Let me show you this real quickly. Same house, okay? Same house, except here I'm going to take some color, a little bit of mauve, a little bit of purple, a little bit of violet. There we go, like that. Okay, we're going to put the roof on. We're going to go like this. Okay, there's the roof. Okay, that same roof. Here's the underside of that roof there. Here's the shadow side of the house right there. This is the under part there. Here's the doorway. Here's a window, maybe another one there. Little bush over here that forms that. And then here's the cast shadow of the house. Now, both of them say house. This one looks like art. This one looks like a bunch of lines, okay? This is linear and non-linear. Non-linear, you get more bang for your buck, okay? It looks cool. And that's what you're trying to teach yourself to do. Not outline everything, but have things look like this, okay? That's the linear and non-linear approach. Now, the next secret, that's secret number 6. The 7th secret is getting texture out of your paintings. Now, I've got some here that are all finished, and I'll show you these in just a second, but I want to see if I can just get at least a few of these started. I'm going to take some color. Okay, let's take some of this purple and blue and get all this mixed together. I'm just going to make a swash of color like this, okay, like so. And I'm going to get some interesting texture, I'm going to take some plastic wrap, crinkle it just a little bit, and put it down like that. Now, I didn't push it down all the way everywhere. I didn't try and flatten it out, in other words, okay? It's just laying there. I got to just tell you a quick story. First time I ever tried this was probably 20 years ago. I'd read about it in a book. I tried it. And every 10 seconds, I'd pick it up to check and see if it was working. I'd say, oh, is it working? And I didn't see anything. I'd pick it up again. You got to leave it like that for about 20 minutes. Don't touch it, okay? Just don't touch it for 20 minutes. and I'll show you in a minute what that's going to look like, okay? The next texture is like this. We're going to take some stuff like this. Oh, let's take some of this and some green. Okay, a little bit of blue, a little bit of green, a little bit of blue-green, and come over here and make a thing like that. Okay, and just make some stuff like this. And this first one was plastic wrap. The second one I'm going to use is a scraper. Okay, we're just going to take our scraper, and while this is still wet, we're just going to go like this and make some shapes, some tree shapes like that. Woo, look at that. Okay, you got trees just appearing right before your eyes, okay? It's like, woo, it's magic, okay? Every time I do this, I blow myself away, okay? Now here's another one. This is another way to get texture, okay? While that is still wet, we just take a little bit of salt and we sprinkle some salt on there like that, okay? Now again, I'm going to show you in a minute what that looks like, okay? Right now, the salt is absorbing some of the wet paint. I'm going to take another one like this. I'm going to do this and do this and do this and do this. Let's see, I want this drier, so I'm going to put a little bit of drier paint in there. Okay, like that. That's pretty good. Okay, and now on this one, what we're going to do is I'm going to take a squirt bottle. Let me make sure I got a good squirt on this. There we go, sheep like that. All right, and I'm just going to squirt down into that. Just like so, just like that. Oh, look at what it's doing already, okay? And again, in a second, I'll show you some more of it. And then the final way to get texture, now there's some other ways, but these are some really good ways right here, okay? You do these in your paintings, you're gonna have some interesting paintings. Okay, final way I wanna do on this one is, I've got a wet sponge. The sponge was wet. I'm getting some paint directly from the palette, so the paint's fairly thick, sponge is fairly wet, and I'm doing this kind of stuff. Okay, and I can make all sorts of different patterns and shapes and whatever, just using the sponge like that. Now, there's 5 different ways to get texture in just a few seconds, okay? Now I'm going to throw this to the side, and I want to bring up the dry ones just so you can see it, and I'll review with you what they were, okay? This is the plastic wrap after I peeled it off. This is what it looks like after it's peeled off. Look at that. And it looks like a frosting on it's just cool looking, okay? Here's the scrapes. There's some sponge. Look you know how easy it'd be to turn those into some flowers or something? Here's the salt right here, and then here's the spray marks right there. Whoa, was that cool or what? Okay, yeah, all right. All right, now we're going to go back to our painting. I'm going to bring up the step that we were on the last time because I want to show you one more thing on that step. And I got something else here in my hand that I'll show you in a second also. Let me get all my stuff out of the way here. Now again, this whole painting is being done with the stuff that's in the special kit just for public television. This is not available anywhere else. This is just in here. And I'm going to show you in a second something that's in there that I haven't shown you yet that's really, really cool. But first, on this step, I wanted to put some windows in. So let me get my the right palette here. Here's my palette. Okay, this is the palette that I'm working from on this particular one. This is the palette that's in the kit. Okay, and I'm going to take some blue, a little bit of purple, and I'm going to just put a couple of windows. There's one right there, and here's another one right there, like so, just like that. And there's another one right there, like that. Now, having done that, remember how I told you always keep a wet brush in there, okay? After you do this, maybe blot it just a little bit, and then smear it just a little bit. One of the things you don't want in your paintings is perfection. Perfection is the enemy of art. It looks boring if it's perfect. Look how much more interesting that is once I smear it. Now I'm going to go to the other painting, and in fact, let's do that now. I'm going to go to the finished version of this, and I'll show you the last couple of things to do on it. Put that down there. Here's the finished version. This is basically exactly the same thing, except now I want to take something. This is called Terry's Magic Overlay. Okay, now I'm going to lay this on this painting for a second. This is just a specially treated piece of plastic. Okay, I'm going to lay it over here, and I'm going to say, I wonder what it would look like if I had one of those trees back behind the house. Okay, so I'm going to just on the plastic, I'm going to paint in one of the trees, okay? And just see, does this look better if I tie it in like this? What if I just do a little bit of stuff right like there, and there's my roof? Does that tie this section and this section together better? And then you make your decision without having messed up your painting, okay? And you just take this back off now, and you say, well, I don't know, do I like it better that way, or do I like it better that way? And you can tell, okay? The magic overlay is included in the kit. It's a specially treated acetate. In fact, Terry's is the only one that you can get that's treated this way. You wipe that off, you use it over and over and over again. I mean, there's no limit to how many times you can use the thing. All right, now, let's finish out this piece, okay? To finish out this piece, you can see I put the windows in. I put a little fence in, okay? To put the fence in, I used a little bit of the reddish color and just made some lines this way and lines that way. But the big thing I want to show you right now is with the sponge. So let me clean this. Let me get this nice and clean. Now let me get this is magenta right here and a little bit of purple, a little magenta, and I'm going to put in the lavender field. Okay, here comes the lavender field. Okay, just like this. Just like so. And this is already dry. Everything on here is dry. So what I'm doing now is just popping, and I squeeze that out just a little bit wetter than I want. And a little more. Anybody can do this. My wife just said it in my ear. She said, I can do that. Anybody can do this. Okay, that's the beauty, dude. Look at that. It's so cool looking. It is so cool looking. Okay, and then finally maybe use a little bit of green, okay, and put some green in the bush. Well, that didn't come out very green, did it? Okay, here, let's try again. See if we can get some green. Trying to get some green. I'm working. I'm messing up my palette. There we go. There's some green. And we'll put some green in the bushes back there. You know what? I even like the thing I did that was a mistake. Get some color back there. That's kind of neat looking. Dudes, you can do this one. I know you can do it. I know it. It's easy. It's easy. And everything you need is in the kit from Public Television. Everything you need. Okay, let's go to our more complicated painting. Now, I'm going to just bring this down for a second. This is the last step, okay? This is from the last time. I really ran short on time. Remember, I'm only painting with 3 colors here. I'm painting with the yellow, orange, and the blue, green, and the red, violet. I want to put his eye in just like that, okay? There's his eye, okay? The other thing, when I bring the next step up, you're going to say, wow, it's really a lot different. But all I did was more of the same, okay? It's just more of the same. There's his eye. And I'm going to put a little bit into his face. Can't use that color. Here's my blue-green, and here's my red-violet, okay, which gives me kind of a grayish purpley color. And I'm going to use that in his face a little bit like this to put some lines in his face, just like so, okay? Now, when I pull this up, you'll see what I did. Now, don't panic. Don't say, oh, man, he didn't tell us all of it. He didn't show us the whole thing. I know there's a lot on here that's different, but I'm going to try and give you as much as I can, as fast as I can. All right. Now, obviously, right here, I drew in some additional leaves, okay? And these are called banana leaves, okay? And you can draw these in. Take your time. I used some. Every now and then, I'd have some more of the blue in there. Sometimes I'd have more of the yellow in there. All right, let me clean my palette real quick. Let me just get this clean so I can work with our 3 colors. Just like that. Get my hand clean. Okay, and now first thing I'm going to do is take some of the blue-green color, just like this, and let me get my brushes here. I'm going to take some of the blue-green color, and I'm going to make a, wrong color, there it is. There's my blue-green color. And I'm going to put in some shadow underneath some of these feathers. And I'll put a little split in the feather, just like that. Then I'll take a clean brush, has no paint on it, and just touch the bottom of that, okay, like so. I'll do one more for you. All right, let's see, here's one. I'll do it right there, put a little split in it, and then touch the bottom like so. All right, like that. And so there's how I got some interest to the feathers. What it does, it makes the feathers look more three-dimensional. That's the whole idea behind that. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do is take some of the blue-green mixed with the magenta. This is the magenta. Mix the two together, and I'm going to come in and make his eye. Now, it looks almost black when you look at it because I have it so thick. Okay, so that kind of brought him to life. You notice I used a similar color by mixing that magenta and the blue together, and that made the underside of his beak. I put in some darker greens for some of the leaves coming forward like this. Let me just do some of those for you. Here's the blue-green, right there like that. Then I'm going to take another brush that's clean and put some yellow, the yellow-orange in that. This is the yellow-orange. And not much else, just those two. Let's come right here and do some. I'm going to just pull this in like so. Just like that. Now, then what I'm going to do is take another brush with just water on it, touch that, and it gives me a nice feeling like that. All right, now, I took some yellow and glazed over these. Remember, these were left white before. So I took some yellow and glazed over them. Let me just show you quickly how I did. I'm going to take some of the yellow-orange that we've been working with. Going to get it fairly clean and fairly watery. Now watch, I'm just going to come down over the stuff that I've already painted. I'm not trying to, if you leave these white, when you glaze, you don't then try and paint around it. You want to paint right over top of the part that you left white and right into the background, okay? So you're doing this, okay, just like this. Now, actually, let me get just a little bit more of that and a little more water. This is on dry paper. There we go. That's what I'm looking for right there, okay? All right, just like that. I went into my wet green, didn't want to do that, okay? But like so, like so. Now see, you got to have a thing called catitude. C-A-T-T-A-T-I-T-U. Boy, I can't spell word. Catitude, okay? Tude, spell it with a tude. Okay, catitude is this. I didn't really mean to do that part right there, but you know what? It looks cool, okay? I had a dog when he'd run into the sliding glass door we had, and he'd walk away so embarrassed, okay? He'd be all with his tail between his legs. But I had some cats, they used to run into that glass door, and then they'd go, I meant to do that. I'm cool. I meant to do that. That's what you want to have with your paintings, okay? Yeah, I meant to do that. That is really good, okay? So, have catitude. Will travel. All right. Oh, my gosh. This is... Okay, now look, I'm going to put some of that color up here. It's in the bird, and it's there, and it's there. Look how it balances out. If you put some of it right there, leave some of it white. I should put a little bit on his feet. Again, this could be some of the yellow on his feet. And just get a little bit of it here. A little bit with the magenta mixed in. I'm not going to do much with his feet. You know what? I never stress the feet on birds. I find most people don't even like the feet on birds. Well, you've learned the 7 secrets. We've done a very basic painting, and we've done a painting that's a little more advanced using triad colors. Here I'm just scraping in the things on his feet. We've had some fun. We've learned a lot. I can't wait to see you the next time. Slow it down a pace. It's just us again, okay? I want to just take a minute. I want to show you another use for the acetate. This is one of my books right here, okay? That's one of the books. Here I've got the acetate. In the back of the books there are drawings, okay? Now, on this particular one, I just laid it over this flower drawing that's right here. Let's say you're not sure, what it should look like or whatever, or what colors you want to use, whatever. I take the acetate and just put it down like that. Take maybe a little bit of water, spread it around, okay, like so, and get a feeling, practice your strokes, builds confidence in you, and it truly does. It really does. It really builds confidence. When you've done it this way, and then you go to do the painting on paper, especially if you've not painted much, this gives you tremendous confidence. And remember what I said before, this stuff can be used over and over and over again. I'm not going to do all of these, but just to give you an idea. So there you get a feeling for what you want it to look like. Or you might say to yourself, hey, I wonder what it would look like if I did it in purple, and and so you do that instead of, whatever. I certainly like the red. How about you? But that's another one of the uses for the acetates. Palm trees. A lot of my paintings have palm trees in them. People say to me, how do you do your palm trees? You can lay this right over my palm tree in the painting, okay, and just practice your palm tree right over top of mine and see what it looks like, okay? And it's a great use for it. Besides deciding what you want to paint, you can also decide colors. Let me show you one last use for this. Okay, this is really cool. Okay, this is really cool. Okay, I'm going to just take this for a second. Let's say I've finished my painting. The painting is all done. And I'm going to just write here, I'm going to write M. This is the way I sign my name, like this. All right, now I've done this. In fact, what I do is I keep one of these acetates with my signature on it. Okay, now I'm trying to decide, where do I want to sign this one? Do I want to sign it down there? Do I want to sign it over on this side? Okay, and I move it around. It is such a good thing to use, okay? You'll find a lot of uses for it, and as I said before, you can clean it, use it over and 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 over again. The last thing I want to show you is this, is correcting, okay? I'm going to do two kinds of correcting for you. The first one is, I've painted something, and I've painted it, let's say I painted it green, okay? I painted it green like that, okay? Can you see that? I'm going to hold this up, and I want to change that green to pink, okay? I want to change it to pink. So I'm going to take some pink, and I'm going to just go. Now, all the books I've ever read say you can't do, now this is going to run in a second, and that's fine. If you don't want it to run, you could have taken a paper towel or something, put it right underneath there, okay? But I actually, in this case, I'm going to just let it run. But all the books say, once you paint with a color like that, you can't change it. And it's just not true. Now let's make that fairly bright pink. There we go, just like that. Now we got a fairly bright pink. So we changed it from green to pink. Now I can change that then to, let's just, again, just for example, I'm going to change it to yellow-orange, okay? There we go, we changed it to yellow-orange. And then finally, let's say I want to have, you know what, I really like the green better. I think I'll go back to the green. No problem. You just go back and do it green. This is how you correct while it's wet. You know what the key here is? It's holding the piece vertically, okay, or giving it at least a decent angle. Now watch this. If I'm actually working in my studio, the way I would do it, probably not quite this steep an angle. Let's say maybe I've painted all of this stuff, and now I've painted this, and I just want to change the color. I would probably hold it about like that, and then just come in like so, and do my change, okay? And so that I'm catching the change in the tissue, just like this. That's how I do it. So that's how you change the stuff when it's wet. Okay, I'm going to throw that to the side for a second. But what if it's dry, Terry? I did it days ago and it's dry. Can I still fix it? The good news is you can still fix it, yeah, even when it's dry. This has probably been dry for, I don't know, maybe a week. I'm going to just take a brush here. I'm going to show you two different ways to do it when it's dry. Let's do this one first, right here. Okay, can you see that all right? All right, now I'm going to take some clean water, and I'm going to just say, let's say I want to change this part right here, okay, that part right there to pink, okay? Now, I made this as ugly and dark and rough a color as I could think to make it. Okay, and I'm not doing anything right now except letting the water remove the color. I'm not pressing hard. I'm not doing anything to suck it in. I'm not blotting it. I'm just letting the water take the color away. Yeah, every book I've ever read says you can't do this. But you know what? You can, okay? You can do it. Now, is there a secret? Yes, I'm using this Terry Madden's secret hydrogen-oxygen mixture. It's 2 parts hydrogen, 1 part oxygen. It's called H2O, okay? It's $29.95 for a little bottle like that. Now, of course not. It's water. That's all it is. It's just water. Now, watch. Now, we've taken that enough. Then again, now let's come in and as dark as that color was, now we can come back in and just boom. There it is. Now it's pink. Okay. Now, since it's wet, I can go right back and do the stuff I was doing earlier. I don't want it pink. You say, oh, I don't want it pink. Okay, fine. Make it yellow or whatever. Okay. You can now change it to whatever color you want it to be. The same way you did when it was wet the first time. How about that? Okay. That is pretty cool, isn't it? You know, for years, watercolor was taught as unforgiving. You can't change it. And I have no idea why, because it just isn't that hard to fix mistakes. Over here, let's do something a little different. I'm going to, actually, let's do something. I'll do something here, then I'll do something over there. Let me do this one first, okay? I'm going to just take a spray. And let's say I don't like this whole section right here. This is another way to just lift the color. Let me get it out here where you can see, okay? Now, watch this right here. I'm going to just lift some color. I'm just going to go whoop, doot, 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 doot. You don't have to make that silly little sound, but you could. Seems to help. Doot, 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 doot. See how much better it went when I'm making the sound? All right. I'm actually taking that back so it's close enough to white paper. Now I blot that. Ching, ching, ching. And boom, there it is. Okay, it's clean. The little part that was on my brush, boop, like that. There it's clean. All right, so you can lift it that way. Now, one last thing to do. Let's say, just as an example, let's say that parrot, the macaw that we just worked on, let's say you were doing the background and you're trying to make it interesting and it's supposed to look like a jungle back there, and you ended up with this, okay? You know, it all just got kind of okay? Which can happen. I mean, that happens to everybody at times, okay? What you do is you take a spray bottle, okay? Take a spray bottle, and let me just make this nice and tight, okay? Take the spray bottle and you set it on the hard spray. Hard spray is like that, okay? Now, let me just make sure I got it. Ching. Okay, that's pretty hard. Okay, now I'm going to hold this over the water here so it doesn't make a total mess. All right, now watch this. I'm just going to come in, I'm going to spray. Ching, 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 ching. That wasn't the sound from before, okay? This is ching, 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 ching. Okay, go all different directions with it like that. Maybe a little bit of this and a little bit of that. And all of a sudden, the area that was boring looking is interesting looking. Okay, now I'm going to blot that with a tissue, just like so. And boom, you took an area that was all one value, one shade, you made it interesting. Now, you could, if you wanted to, you could drop some color in there. Again, I'm going to, let me just get some nice clean color. Everything's getting dirty on me here. Okay, let me get some clean color, get a clean pink for a second. And I'm just going to come in while this is still wet, or you could do it even after it dried, but I could drop some pink in there if I wanted to. Okay, so you could leave it the white color or you could leave it the pink color, whichever way you want to do it. But everything can be fixed. Now listen to me, there is nothing in watercolor that can't be fixed. Over the past 10 years, I've probably had, I'm going to say 10 to 15,000 people come to my live workshops. I've seen virtually every mistake you can possibly think of. I mean, I can't think of any mistake that could be made I haven't seen. And they can all be fixed. Everything can be fixed. So be encouraged, keep up the good work, and thank you so much for letting me teach you. I appreciate it.